Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's masterclass where we are going to be talking about signs of sugar addiction and what we can do about it. And so I'm here with my friend and colleague, Carmel Jean-Francois. Is that I say that correctly? Yes. Going back to my days of studying French. Okay. And we are going to start here with a meditation, and then I'll turn it over to her and we'll have a little back and forth for our time here that we spend together. So for right now, let's all take a big deep breath as we start with just a little bit of grounding and settling in. If you want to close your eyes, you can, or perhaps soften your gaze. And take a few deep breaths here, just as you are. And notice what's present for you. Notice how your body feels in this moment. And notice the way your body is being supported right now in this moment. Notice the support beneath you. And see if there is anything that you're holding in your physical body that you could release and relax. And maybe there's some movement that would feel good for you. Maybe a little stretching, releasing. Oftentimes we are running from thing to thing, going from meeting to meeting, or getting tasks done throughout the day, and we often forget about slowing down and tuning in. So let this be your opportunity to slow down, to tune in to your own body, to this moment, this practice of mindfulness, paying attention on purpose in the present moment without judgment, without expectation, practicing curiosity, openness, openness to whatever comes. And really setting that intention now, and as we go into our masterclass today, and as we go into our everyday life, to be more curious. No judgments, no expectations. Giving ourselves the gift of the present moment, to be present to whatever comes. The thoughts, the emotions, the ideas, sensations. And right now, practicing this awareness, what are you aware of? Without judgment, without worrying about whether it's right or wrong or good or bad. What do you notice as a thought, as an emotion, as a sensation? What are you aware of? Breathing all the way in and all the way out. And today, as we are focusing on sugar addiction, even just hearing those words, what do you notice happening in your body? What's coming up for you? Thoughts, beliefs, emotions, memories, sensations. It's all just awareness. Right? Giving yourself permission to be present with whatever comes, whatever is coming up or coming through for you now, and whatever comes up or comes through for you as we go into this masterclass. Take a deep breath, feel back into the support of your own chair or couch or whatever you're on right now. Feel that support. And remember, you can come back to that awareness at any time that you need to. Wiggle your toes in whatever way you're able. Feel your feet. Feel your body breathing itself. Feel the breath flowing in and out. Remember, at any time throughout this masterclass or throughout your day, you can always come back to your own breath, your own body. Remembering to offer yourself grace, kindness, compassion. Now, in this moment, and as we move forward. What does grace feel like? What does compassion feel like? For many of us, it's easier to offer those things to others. What does it feel like for you in this moment? What does kindness feel like towards yourself? Love feel like towards yourself? Remembering that you are worthy of love and support and compassion and kindness, just as you are. Take one more deep breath. And notice how your body is feeling right now and see if there's any movement your body needs right now. Any stretching, any repositioning, anything your body needs in this moment. And I am excited to be here with you all today. If your eyes are still closed, you might open them back up. Bring awareness back to the space that you're in. And I will turn it over to you, my friend. How are you? How was that for you?
If you're asking me, that was really good. That was really good. That was a nice little escape. It's 12 noon here in New York, and I don't usually stop and do any of that. So that was a nice break in the day. So thank you for that.
Oh, I thank you. Thank you for choosing to pause in your day to be here, for this exciting, uh, maybe sometimes heavy topic that we're
Yeah,
going
yeah.
to.
I'm going to try to keep it as light as possible, but this can be a very, very heavy topic. And one of the points that I really appreciated about that meditation just now, Larissa, was when you said, think about sugar cravings and what it means to you, and you are repeating no judgment, right? Because when it comes to things like addiction, when it comes to things like feeling some type of guilt after eating something that you feel like you should not have, and I say should in quotes because I don't believe in shoulds and should nots. There's a lot of judgment there. So when you said, no judgment, just bring awareness, that really lifted something from me. So I really appreciated that. So hi everybody. I'd like to say, oh gosh, I don't have my glasses on my phone. I want to say Melissa, right? Kelame, I hope I said that right. And then I can't read the rest of it. Again, I'm on my phone, so please forgive me. Hi, Miranda. Hi, everybody. I was really excited when Larissa asked me to come on and speak to you all. Now, I'm Carmel Jean-Francois. You said that perfectly, Larissa. I'm out of the New York City area, and my jam is fitness, my jam. And so it was fitness for a long time. And when I saw that there was a problem with I was always working out, but I didn't look the way I wanted to look. So I sought out the help of a nutritionist. That nutritionist asked me if I did any type of calorie counting. And I did not want to be that person that counted calories, but I hired her. She was really good at what she did. So I did the thing and I started counting calories. And for many, many years, that's all I did. And I got really good at looking at a piece of food and knowing exactly how many calories that was. But what it did, although I don't do it anymore, and I strongly urge my clients not to do it, what it did was give me like nutrition 101. It gave me the basic fundamentals of how nutrient dense a broccoli is versus a candy bar. It's not hard to tell, but it did give me an idea of where everything fell on the spectrum. But what I started finding is that because I was calorie counting, everything that I was eating was processed. Everything came out of a box, it came out of a bag, it came out of a package, because that made it easier for me to count calories. And so what I did was I kept calories low, protein high. That's all I cared about. And if you know anything about that type of diet, that means I was very high with protein shakes, protein bars, protein powders, and all of that is laden with sugar. And I have a joke about my name because my name is Carmel. I say my mother named me Carmel and she cursed me with this sweet tooth. And I was named after my mother, and my mother had a sweet tooth. And I believe that my fundamental love of sweets come from my mother. Because she loved sweets, she did not deny her children of sweets. Everything we had was sweet. But I'm an adult now, so I can't blame it on mom, right? So I know that a lot of it had to do with the route I took with counting calories and going the protein. Oh, sorry, hold on. You guys still see me? Okay, good, because a phone call is trying to come through and I don't want to touch it because then I'll knock myself out of the screen. So what I did, I got myself addicted to sugar in a very, very different type of way. And then I found myself as my sugar intake increased, I started getting a lower tolerance. Like I was just kind of like, okay, that wasn't enough to satisfy my sweet tooth. I need more. And I need more, and I need more. And pretty soon I became a coffee drinker. I was never a coffee drinker, but I was only taking in coffee just so I can have in my sugar. So I basically was taking sugar and milk with a splash of coffee. And when I started realizing that I was actually addicted to sugar, was when I started hiding the amount of sugar I was putting into my coffee. When somebody asked me, how many sugars do you take with that, Carmel? I would give them like 3, and knowing that I needed at least 4 or 5 more packets of sugar. That's when I said, what's happening with me here? What's happening with me? And constantly fatigued. So that's another way, right? I was always tired, even if I was consuming so much caffeine during the course of the day, and it wasn't just 1 cup of coffee. By noon, I was ready for another one, and it gradually came up that way. It used to be just in the morning. Then by mid-afternoon, crashing, I'm like, ooh, I could go for another cup of coffee. And another cup of coffee just simply meant I could go for some more sugar with a splash of coffee. And then I remember, by the time I realized it was a problem, I was having a 3rd cup of coffee before I even went home. And I was always so tired and lethargic and sleepy that coffee never kept me up at night. And not to say that it didn't affect my sleep. And I'm sure that was part of the reason why I was always so tired, because there was so much sugar and caffeine in my body. I never had a problem sleeping, but I was always tired. So what gives, right? And another thing was constantly eating and thinking about food, even when I was not hungry. Now, the surprising fact about it is that when it comes to sugar and food addictions, certain people you look at and they might be a little bit overweight, they might be a lot overweight. And you look at them and you think, I know they're probably addicted to sugar. They don't know how to say no to food or sugar or candy. You see the way I look now? I was just as big, just as little, just as heavy, just as light, whatever you want to call it. I looked pretty much the same way that you see now. I was just heavy into fitness, but my diet was all sugar. So no, I had nobody judging me. I had nobody judging me. And if I took a piece of cake and then a second and then a 3rd piece of cake, people would say, Carmel, you don't do that every day. I'm like, yeah, exactly. But I knew that I did. I knew that I did. And I knew that that was a secret, right? So these were signs. I didn't even realize what was happening. I didn't realize that there was even such a thing as sugar addiction. I used to call it sugar addiction and laugh about it because everybody around me was just so forgiving. Carmel's got nothing to worry about. Look at the way she looks, but what was happening inside, right? So when I realized that I was addicted to sugar, I'm a fitness coach and trainer. I was training a group of people, and their diets consisted of a lot of sugar, but they didn't look like me, right? They were the heavier ones that I said, all right, I'm gonna do a sugar detox, 30-day sugar detox with everybody. And in reading the symptoms and the signs, guys, that's when I realized this is me. Everything I was reading, the cravings, that's me. The hiding, that's me. The fatigue, wait, that's me. The feelings of anxiety or anxiousness, anxiety, it's the same thing. Anything emotional that I was feeling, sugar needed to accompany it, right? Whether I was happy about it, whether I was sad about it. And even craving salty foods to kind of balance off all the sugar that I was taking. I realized at that point that, oh my God, Carmel, this is you. And I dared not tell anybody. I coached them, and still I just kind of like tried to wean myself off and everything like that. But sugar still called my name. Um, and about 2 years ago, again, I looked just like this. My doctor diagnosed me as pre-diabetic. And it made sense to me. I wasn't shocked. I wasn't surprised. I just said, okay. And around that time, I started hearing a lot of talk about being whole food, plant-based. So I decided to dive in. And whether one had to do with the other, I'm not sure, but it was an independent thought. I said, let me just go whole food, plant-based for a week and see what the big hoopla is about. And I felt great. And I tried it again for another week. I felt great just around the time that I got this diagnosis. The doctor wanted me to come in for another blood test. And she was just like, oh, no, you're good. No, you're good. And it was a couple of things that she diagnosed me with: high cholesterol, pre-diabetic, and a fatty liver. So when I went back in 2 weeks later, guys, 2 weeks later, she says, what happened? Were you an alcoholic? What was going on? And I said, no, I just changed my diet. I'm a whole food, plant-based vegan now. And I was only 2 weeks in, and she had nothing to offer me. She didn't really comment. She was just like, okay, see you at the next checkup. But I say that to say, during those 2 weeks, at one point, maybe about a week and a half in, I looked up and said, Carmel, you haven't had one piece of chocolate in 2 weeks. You haven't had any cravings for any candy. I surprised and shocked myself. And I realized that the fact that I just inundated my system with the natural sugars and fiber and nutrition from plants, that I really weaned myself off of those cravings. Now, don't get me wrong. I wasn't healed. I was far from it. The sugar still call my name 100%. Do I still feel like there's underlying things that I have not resolved? Yes, I do. But the point of it is that I've been able to manage it in a very healthy way, and a way that I really feel aligned with my journey. I managed it in a way that I never thought would happen. When I decided to become whole food, plant-based, I did it out on a whim, and I did it to really go back to my doctor and say, haha, I don't have fatty liver disease. And what I came out saying, I get this sugar thing now. So those are a few of the signs that I saw in myself. I don't want to monopolize this call. If anybody cares to share, can anybody share any correlation, anything with the story that I've just told that you might have seen in yourself, signs that you might be heading in that direction if you're not already there, or even anything that maybe you know that you have some strong sugar cravings. Does anybody want to share?
Yeah, Carmel, I just want to pop on and say thank you for sharing all of that, because I do think that a lot of times we're overlooking the symptoms, or we're just noticing like one of like, oh, maybe I'm fatigued, but not connecting the dots of all of the other things that we might also be feeling as well. Or, right, what you're talking about with the calorie counting, or following basic food pyramid, or doctor saying, hey, eat this. And you're right, it's so much easier to pay attention when something has the nutrition label on it. And right, we're not paying attention to how our body is actually processing it, or what our body actually needs, which is why we focus so much on the mindfulness aspect of paying attention to those signs that our body is giving us, that perhaps something needs to change. All right. And I see here somebody shared of the drinking coffee to get sugar resonates. Right. As somebody said, I think I do that. And I share all the time, like the only coffee I like is coffee gelato, because I agree that I don't actually like the taste of coffee. It's the sugar and cream with it. And if I drink coffee, it would just be to have the sweetness and the sugar. Yeah, I think how people actually enjoy black coffee. But anyways.
Right. I don't get that either. And when
I just don't drink it because I don't like it unless it has a lot of stuff in it.
Right. I've been able to give up. I gave up coffee just like this, not because of the
Yeah.
not because of um I I not just because of the sugar, but because I didn't really like coffee to begin with. I just like the sweetness of it, and I think most people who drink coffee might that might be
I mean, there
the
are
thing.
people who say they actually just like the coffee.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but I wonder if it's because of the caffeine that they need because of, not sleeping well. Yeah, somebody else says that they actually like black coffee.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. I've met many. I've met many people. It's like just black. I'm like, okay, more power to you.
Yeah. Yeah. So as Carmel, as you're talking about some of these signs of sugar, whether it's addiction or dependency or cravings, whatever it is, what is it that we can do about it that once if someone notices, oh, you know what, I am feeling like maybe I'm addicted to sugar. What do we do?
Well, Larissa, back to that mindful piece that you mention often, it's starting to be mindful of when it is that that sugar craving hits, um, what we might be doing. Did something trigger it? Am I being emotional right now, or is it just a reaction to just reach for it because it's there? I found that a lot because I like sugar so much, it was always around me, so it was always just so easy to reach. And once I started practicing that mindful piece, even the intermittent fasting, I found myself reaching when I wasn't even craving anything, but simply because it was there. So it's being mindful of how much of it is around you, how much of it is emotional, how much of it is a social aspect, or is there trauma attached to it? And some of it is very, very surface, right? Just like reaching for it. And some of it, you might have to dig down a little deeper to kind of say, where did this come from? And again, I know my mom started me off very young on this stuff because she liked sugar, but I know somewhere along the way, I started attaching it to things. And even I remember very, very vividly. First of all, I buried my mother last year. She passed away from Alzheimer's, and Alzheimer's is being dubbed as type 3 diabetes, believe it or not. Um, and it made sense. To me, it made sense because of my mother's love of sugar her whole entire life. But one day, I'm of Haitian descent. I'm Haitian American first generation. So I grew up on Haitian pastries and cake. And I came across a client that was Haitian. She says, I have a bakery. And as a thank you, she sent me over a large piece of Haitian cake. That day, I was the only one in the office. So I got up and I got my slice, sat down. 5 minutes later, I was up, sliced, sat down. I like a quarter of the cake was gone by noon. So it was my breakfast, it was a snack, and it was lunch, it was my lunch as well. And I realized I cannot sit here with this cake. So what I did, I picked up a garbage bag, I collected, I threw the cake inside and collected all the garbage in the office and I threw it in that bag. Had I not done that, I know that if I put in a clear if I put in a clean bag, I would have went back and forth and did one of those what was that show that what one of the characters went back in the trash to go get something that looked fairly clean. What was that show? Anyway, it doesn't even matter. But I knew that that was going to be me if I had not collected all the trash in the office. So that was another sign that Carmel, you need help. This is not good. But it was just the nostalgic piece. This was a Haitian cake, something very, very similar to what my mother used to bake when she was still well. And eating it, yes, it brought me joy, and it lights my brain. The dopamine hits, and that's a real thing. So many times I'm going to stray off of the emotional part of it and the nostalgic part of it. But when we consume sugar, there's a very real chemical reaction that happens in our body. Our brain lights up, we get the dopamine hit. The brain says, oh, it's a reward, right? And the more we have it, the more the brain is rewarded. And what I did for a long time, and the why my liver was in trouble, was because I was taking real sugar with my coffee, and quite often, many times a day, but I was also taking all the artificial sweeteners. And now what happens, it lights up the reward paths in your brain pretty much the same way that it would regular sugar. But your brain is saying, well, I tasted it, but we didn't get the sugar, that bolt the jolt of energy. Where is that? So it sends me back, keep craving for more. And that's why sugar substitutes are even more harmful than the actual thing. So there's the emotional, there's the chemical aspect of the sugar addiction. So all of those things. Larisa, I think I lost your question. I hope I answered your question.
No, I think what you're talking about is important. And again, for anyone who's here live, if you want to put a question in the chat, of like what we do once we recognize that it can be a problem or it is already a problem, whether it's just in our everyday life of things we're noticing, or whether a doctor is diagnosing us with something like in your case where you already noticed it, but the doctor had to say, hey, you can't keep going on this way.
Right, right.
So you're talking about the nostalgic piece, the emotional piece, actually what's happening in the body, what around cravings with sugar. So how can someone tell the difference?
Someone could, I feel like once we do start paying attention, we can tell the difference very, very easily, because then it becomes a loss of control, right? When you get that loss of control, you know that you should just have one slice of cake, and yet you go back for a second and third and fourth piece, or you still like you're eyeing it and you're looking at it, or when you actually have to throw something out in the garbage and throw out all other types of stuff on top of it because you know that you might go back into it. And I think that's the main thing, the loss of control. And to even admit it to yourself, right? Because you can justify it and say, well, it just tasted good and the taste is still in my mouth or whatever. And so that's the only reason why I'm craving it. But I feel like that's one surefire way. And if somebody, I think at the end of the day, Larisa, it's honesty. It's honesty, because I think we all have a sense of awareness of what's going on in our bodies and how we consume food and drink, and how well we sleep or how moody we get, because there's also a behavioral aspect to all of this as well. If I get anxious because it's time to eat and I haven't eaten, and sugar and food are so closely related, the addiction portion of it, because if I'm addicted to sugar, that usually goes hand in hand with being addicted to food, because so much of the processed foods that's in our supermarkets and the foods that we eat even in restaurants are so overly processed, and they contain so much sugar in it. And it's very partly because sugar is a preservative that's often used, and it's used to sweeten foods. And everybody who doesn't like something sweet every once in a while, except for some people, it's just a little bit over the top. So to know the difference is to really just have an awareness and being honest with yourself as far as what's going on with your cravings, what's going on with how you consume food, even in social areas, like are you hiding something, or are you blatantly making excuses and puns and jokes about how you eat? Oh, don't mind me, nobody's just fed me for a long time, right? Things like that. So I think those are some good ways, Larisa.
Yeah, and what one of the things I also just want to hit back on, Carmel, is what you're talking about with the additives, where some of it is a blatant, like, you're going and getting dessert every day. And for me, years ago, when I started, on this sugar journey of just awareness, I was astonished at how much sugar was in everyday things, because we were already eating, all organic, mostly fresh foods, but things in, ketchup or sauces or all of these other things that a lot of people just aren't aware of.
Right.
So I think it's so important when we're talking about the mindfulness piece, the mindfulness around our own thoughts, emotions, belief, memories, all of the stuff that comes up, right? Paying attention when we have a craving, when we're habitually just grabbing something, but then also the educational piece as far as really being aware of what we're ingesting. What are we consuming that maybe we're not even paying attention to? Because it's one thing if you're making your own coffee and you're putting in, 8 packets of sugar, right? Some level of awareness, but a lot of times people are eating things and not recognizing that they love it so much because it's filled with either sugar or artificial things.
which I'm glad that you brought up, because I always teach my clients to read food labels, the ingredients, as well as the nutrition label. But the ingredient labels says a lot, because something could say 0 sugar added. When you turn around, you see organic cane sugar and beet sugar and maple syrup and all of these different sugars, so they can put 4, 5, 6 types of sugars in one product. Meanwhile, on the front of the label, it says no sugar. And because it's natural sugar, they're allowed to say that. And then the person who is in denial says, oh, but it's maple sugar, it's beet sugar, it's cane sugar. It's all from natural sources. It's all from the plants, Carmel. You say eat more plants. It's all from the plants. And then things that you wouldn't expect, like ketchup, peanut butter, things of that. There's pasta sauces. They have sugar. Most of anything you pick up that's in a package, more than likely there'll be sugar in there. There's sugar in milk products that you think that you're just consuming milk, and there's actually sugar in it. So yeah, you kind of get tricked. There's sugar in our vitamins. Take a look at your vitamin ingredient list. There's sugar in one brand of salt. I heard somebody say it and I said, well, what? I went right to my box of sea salt. When I looked, there was dextrose or something in there. I could not have been more surprised. And I was angry. I was very angry at marketing. I was angry at these manufacturers for tricking us like this and putting sugar in things that there's no business. Sugar has no business being in my salt, right? And even in our like Lowry seasoned salt or different seasoned salts, when it comes in a combination of spices, herbs and spices, look out for the sugar. And you might not mind it in a particular product, right? You might not mind it, but the thing is to be aware that it's in there. And then as a consumer, I can make an educated decision. I can make an informed decision whether or not I want to consume that product. So yeah, it's awareness, and then it's being mindful, and it's actually taking the few extra seconds that it'll take for you to read the labels and then decide whether or not I want to consume that because of the amount of sugar that's in it.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing all of that. And what's coming up for me is what I see clients being challenged with often is they have the awareness that something that they're doing is not in alignment for them. It's not helping them. It's not healthy or helping them achieve their goals. And then they do it anyways, right? Because it's an actual addiction. We're thinking about sugar specifically. It's an actual addiction. And so then what are your tips then for people in that space of having the awareness that sugar is perhaps not helping them live the life that they want to live or feel the way they want to feel? What do they do about it?
Again, the honesty piece, Larissa, I would encourage anybody that finds themselves in that predicament, really assess how much of an inconvenience this addiction is impacting their lives. And if it's impacting their lives to the extent where it's not allowing them to show up as who they want to show up as, if it's impacting them where it's not allowing them to do whatever their calling is, if it's not allowing them to be obedient to how they serve and impact the world or the people that they know and love that's around them, then they might feel like it's important enough to seek the professional help that they might need in order to get back in alignment with what their calling is, what their purpose in life is, in order to show up as their true selves. Because meanwhile, it's impeding in some aspect, in some part of their lives, that's not allowing them to live a fulfilled life, not to the extent that they might want to, right? Because if you're informed and you're still deciding to pick up something with some kind of processed food with sugar in it. Right now, you're not comfortable enough. I remember one of my mentors saying that a person will not make a decision until they're so uncomfortable that they're forced to, like they're not uncomfortable enough. It's a little discomfort. It's that little pebble in your shoe that you could walk around the block with and you'll be fine. But you can't walk a mile in it, right? Because that's too uncomfortable. Then you're going to stop and take off the shoe and get rid of that pebble. So it's pretty much kind of the same thing.
Yeah, and I like that analogy. And for a lot of people, they're just so used to being comfortable with the discomfort of their health. And so then it's shifting to be uncomfortable with the new habits and going deeper. Earlier, you shared about, the different reasons why, where it could be, so you just you grow up eating a certain way and it's nostalgic and it brings back good memories. Um, but having to go into that discomfort of doing the inner work connected to the cravings for many people, right? Because some people can say, oh, I'm aware of this, I just never knew it,
Yeah,
and they just stop. And then for some people, it's getting out of that shame cycle of knowing that they want to do better, but then they keep doing it and then they feel bad about themselves of like, why can't I stop, eating cake for breakfast or whatever it is. And then there's so much guilt and shame connected to it.
they're
They
very
don't
much
want to get help because they don't want to have to admit it.
right. Right. And I think that's what's keeping a lot of people there. Like you mentioned before, the discomfort of changing your habits and the shame that's around it, right? Because we've been brainwashed in a culture that says like, why can't you just control yourself? Just stop. It's easy. Do it in 30 days. You know, and we live in this culture that people look at others with addictions like somebody that's suffering from alcohol addiction or drug addiction is looked at very differently, kind of looked at sympathetically, like like something traumatic must have happened, but nobody really understands that food and sugar addiction is right up there. Like something traumatic could have happened, and but because it's just food and sugar addiction, this is something that we pretty much do every day. Like, no, somebody is not typically drinking a bottle of alcohol every day, and not typically taking in drugs every day, not typically, but we do have to eat every day, right? In order to give our body the nutrients that it needs. So once somebody admits or even thinks that they might be addicted to something that the world has to do on a daily basis, there's shame around it. Like you said, why can't I control myself? And then the shame and the guilt will be twofold, tenfold, if the person happens to be overweight or obese. And then to admit something like that, they just might be persecuted, made fun of. So yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah. And I know we didn't want to make this too heavy today, but bringing up the alcohol piece and often how connected this dependency and normalization of wine, particularly among like working women, where I see it, where it's just a normalized thing, like, oh, I had a hard day, I'm going to go home and drink wine. And oftentimes it is still a dependency or addiction and the connection with sugar and alcohol
Right.
as well. So again, today our focus, just raising awareness for people and hopefully giving them some tips of things that they can do differently, but really having that awareness and still practicing the self-compassion and the grace and kindness if any of this is resonating, that we don't need to beat ourselves up or feel bad about choices that we've made in the past or that we're currently making. It's just awareness, and then sometimes knowing that we need to work on something different than what we thought we needed to.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes like, oh, I'm going to work with a dietitian who will tell me eat these foods or, all these pre-packaged health plans now of like this exact amount of calories. And maybe that's not the exact support that someone needs. So being
Right.
honest with ourselves to
Mm.
say, oh, you know what? It is an emotional thing. It is bringing back, memories from my mom. And maybe there's some grief and trauma connected there. And maybe that's what I need to work on. Or
Mm.
maybe I do need new ideas of how to integrate whole foods, plant-based whole foods into my diet because I just don't know because I didn't grow up in that way.
Right. Right. That's another thing that people just like, okay, what does one have to do with the other? You're telling me eat plants and I'm not going to have a sugar craving anymore. And like we don't understand the correlation. So there's a bit of education that goes in there too. Yeah, there is. And another thing that you just mentioned is like, okay, maybe I'm going with a dietitian that says count calories when what I really need maybe is a therapist to talk this thing through. And so it's kind of even understanding. And sometimes we won't understand what it is that we need. And that's exactly why I went with that dietitian. I didn't understand what I needed. So, and I ended up learning how to count calories. And another another aspect to it all is not even knowing, like maybe there's something traumatic that happened in my life that I'm pretty open to it and I'm pretty open about it and everybody knows that, but yeah, I'm good. I don't need healing on that front. Meanwhile, that might be the exact thing that we need healing with. Maybe that's the thing that we associate with our food addiction that, I mean, subconsciously, that we didn't even realize. So healing could look very, very differently depending on the person and depending on what their history with the addiction is.
Yeah. And I think that's so important when we think about healing and nutrition, that there is no one size fits all approach. Like for me, I get frustrated seeing diet or nutrition ads or like the exact foods that you need to eat to, lose weight or boost energy or any of those things. And why I feel like it just needs to always go back to mindfulness, because what is healthy for you or what makes you feel good or what your body can process and you can use for fuel could be different than mine. And then that also creates so much shame because we're like, oh, but Carmel's eating cake every day for breakfast and look how skinny she is. What's wrong with me? Because I can't do that, right?
Right. Right.
So we
So
let
there's
go
that.
of the comparison of it.
Yes, and there's that piece, the comparison. Oh,
Yeah. And really just practicing mindfulness of, how do I feel when I eat this,
yeah.
right?
And I think that's key. I think that's the bottom of it because Larissa, there are so many different types of healing modalities. And you know that. We know everybody in this room knows that. There's going whole food plant-based, and maybe that works for somebody, but maybe keto works for somebody else. Or maybe it's tapping. Maybe it's just energy work, right? Maybe it's just meditation too. And I don't say just in that that's all, but maybe that's what they need. Maybe it's a cocktail of different healing modalities that's needed to actually help heal. And that's the beauty of it, right? Because just like with the food, it's no one size fits all. The healing, what the healing looks like, it's not going to be one size fits all. And that's when we know and can appreciate that we are unique. And yeah, what worked for Carmel didn't work for me, but this is what works for me. And there's and feeling that sense of accomplishment that I finally got down to the bottom of it. That's another sense of accomplishment. So that's definitely something to take into consideration and into account. Mhm.
Yeah. And knowing that even if you have figured it out and one day you do have cake or coffee with cream and sugar, that you don't need to feel like a failure. And it's okay. And we're still just practicing mindfulness and self-compassion and grace, because a lot of people, they're like, oh, I'm only going to eat this way. And then they don't for one day. And then they feel like a failure and they just stop with doing what was already working for them.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree 100%. I know this woman that says, "Is it yesterday ended last night. So today's a new day. Let's just start." Right? I love that. Yesterday ended last night. So today's a new day. I'm just gonna pick it up from where I
Yeah.
don't.
And really like the day to day, but then also the moment to moment. And why I encourage all my clients to practice meditation and mindfulness is because it's the moment to moment. So, okay, you did have a piece of cake for breakfast. It doesn't mean the whole day is ruined. And right now, you can still choose to make a different choice.
Yes, yes, 100%, 100%. And
Well,
then there's
go
and then
ahead.
there's I was just going to say, as far as eating is concerned, there is a few things just a couple of things that I wanted to share. I always tell my clients, add more plants to your plates, add more plants to your plates. And by plants, of course, I mean the fruits, vegetables, the legumes, the nuts and seeds, things like that. Fiber is so super key. There's a school of thought that if you juice your fruit, you're good. But when you juice your fruits, you are getting rid of all the other beneficial nutrients like the fiber that comes in our fruits. And we need that. That actually helps, that actually keeps the sugar from spiking in our blood and making it become a problem. So we need the fiber and the other nutrients. and taking more proteins, whatever that looks like for you. If you're a meat eater, maybe taking lean. And it's important to source your meats, but that's a completely different topic. And just being aware and mindful, just like what you were saying, Larisa. Drink
Yeah.
a lot of water. Drink water.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Like, what final tips do you have for people listening in of things they can be more mindful about? So that was awesome. Anything else you want to share?
Um, I'm sure there is, and when I get off, I'm gonna be like, darn, I should have shared that, but there's nothing else right now. I do want to say that this was, Larisa, this was just so good. I just felt so like in my zen, because usually I'm like yelling at my clients. I'm like, in a very loving way, in a very loving way. I'm just like, get it together. But this was just kind of like really zen. So it was really good. Thank you.
Fabulous. So I would like to just do a short closing meditation, and then I would love for you to just share ways that people can get in contact with you or follow you on social media. So we'll do a quick closing meditation, and then I'll turn it back over to you to wrap us up. Sound good?
Okay. Sounds great. Thank you.
Awesome. So I invite us all to take 3 really deep breaths, all the way in, all the way out. And notice what's present for you. Practicing awareness without judgment, without expectation. What are you aware of right now in this moment? Thoughts, beliefs, memories, images, sensations. What are you aware of right now in this moment? Are there any messages coming through from your body? Anything that feels important for you to acknowledge, to remember, to take with you, to take action on, to get support with, to do differently? What are you noticing now? Take another big deep breath. And I invite you to reflect on why your health is important. Why is it important for you to nourish your body, to take care of yourself mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally? Why is it important specifically for you to invest in yourself? And take a moment to envision or imagine or picture what it's like when you are feeling your best, when you are feeling energized, confident, clear, courageous. What is that like for you? How does that feel for you? And maybe even saying the words to yourself, I am worthy. I am worthy. Is there anything else as we begin to bring this to a close? Anything else that you want to remember as you move forward into your day? When you're ready, move your body a bit, stretch, release, and then bring your arms all the way out and wrap your arms around your own body. Give yourself a hug. Give yourself a thank you for showing up for yourself today, for making time for yourself today. And then let your body move, stretch however you need. Big deep breath. Open your eyes if they're not already open. And then, Carmel, I will turn it over to you to share anything you want to share about how you're feeling right now. And then anything else about how people can connect with you.
I love that hug, Larissa. I don't remember the last time I hugged myself. So that was really beautiful. I love the beginning. I loved opening up with the meditation and ending off with the meditation. It kind of like really just put in a nice little package for me. So thank you for that. That's first, I don't usually start and end my meetings like that. So thank you for that. I'm Carmel, and I generally work with women, but I'm not opposed to working with the dudes. And I work with them on assisting them in adapting a whole food plant-based lifestyle in order to gain control over their nutrition and health habits. And we work together. I tell them, listen, we're working together for a few weeks. It doesn't have to be a lifetime, but just for that rapid healing as far as the physical body is concerned. And I always outsource anything greater than what I can handle with my clients. I don't like to pretend like I can help them recover from everything. I don't offer a panacea. So and I could be found on social media under C Fit Coaching, the letter C Fit Coaching. Or you could put in coachcarmel.com, and that's basically my it's like a link tree, and that'll connect you to everywhere I am on these social media streets. And so it's just as simple as that. I appreciate everybody's time today, and everybody's attention. I really, really do. And I would just wish everybody health, especially during the holidays. Thank you too, Kat.
Yes. Thank you so much, Carmel. And thank you to everyone. Hope you have an amazing day, mindfully taking care of yourself in whatever way you need.